The world rewards loudness, but it's built by those who work in silence. Quiet winners aren't driven by applause, validation, or noise. They are driven by clarity, discipline, and deep intention. They don't need to announce their effort. They don't need to prove their ambition. They let their results speak, and their rituals shape those results. High performance isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters with precision, focus, and consistency. Quiet winners follow rituals that protect their mind, structure their day, strengthen their focus, and eliminate distractions long before others even wake up. These rituals create an unfair advantage, not because they increase effort, but because they increase effectiveness. This audiobook will teach you the psychology behind quiet mastery, the systems high performers use to win consistently, and the rituals that turn ordinary days into extraordinary growth. Less noise, more results. This is how quiet winners are made. Chapter 1. The Ritual of Early Mental Clarity. Quiet winners begin their day in a way that most people overlook, with deliberate, intentional stillness. They don't rush into messages, notifications, or obligations the moment they open their eyes. They know that the mind, when freshly awakened, is highly impressionable. Whatever enters at first sets the emotional tone, cognitive direction, and mental rhythm for the next several hours. Because of this, quiet winners guard the early minutes of the morning with seriousness. They understand that clarity isn't something that appears randomly. It is created through conscious ritual. The first element of this ritual is intentional stillness. For quiet winners, stillness isn't merely the absence of noise. It is the presence of awareness. It is the moment where the mind, free from external input, returns to its natural state, calm, observant, and clear. In these first quiet moments, they breathe slowly, sit gently, and allow their thoughts to settle. This stillness acts as a mental grounding wire, stabilizing emotions that may have lingered from the previous day. It strengthens self-connection and prevents the mind from being hijacked by urgency before it's ready to think clearly. From this stillness emerges the second practice, mental clearing. Instead of carrying overnight thoughts into the day and allowing them to drain mental bandwidth, quiet winners release them by writing. They take a notebook, something simple, private, and free of structure, and empty their mind onto the page. Thoughts, worries, ideas, to-dos, fragments of dreams, reflections, reminders, anything that occupies the mental space is written down. This clears cognitive clutter and frees up mental processing power. The act is subtle but transformative. By externalizing thoughts, they remove noise and create space for strategic thinking. This clearing ritual becomes a mental reset that allows the mind to focus with precision instead of being weighed down by hidden anxieties. Another critical part of this ritual is silence, not as emptiness, but as psychological nourishment. Silence allows the brain to recalibrate. It reduces sensory overload and gives emotional systems a chance to return to baseline. In silence, creativity wakes up. In silence, intuition strengthens. In silence, new ideas emerge effortlessly. Quiet winners treat silence as a tool, not an inconvenience. They know that the mind produces its best thinking when it isn't being constantly stimulated. This silent space becomes the birthplace of insight, clarity, and direction before the outside world begins demanding responses. To protect the purity of this mental space, quiet winners minimize morning decisions. They know decision fatigue is real. Every choice, no matter how small, consumes cognitive resources. So, they reduce unnecessary choices. Their clothes are pre-selected. Their workspace is prepared the night before. Their breakfast is simple and predictable. Their morning routine follows an intentional structure. By reducing these micro-decisions, they conserve mental energy for high-value thinking later in the day. This isn't rigidity, it is optimization. When the brain is preserved from trivial decisions, it becomes sharper, more focused, and more creative throughout the day. But the most powerful element of this ritual is their protection of the first hour. Quiet winners guard this hour like a fortress. They do not let people, screens, messages, or demands invade it. No social media, no emails, no calls, no digital noise. They understand that checking a phone first thing floods the mind with dopamine spikes, emotional triggers, and external priorities. It shifts the mind from creator to consumer, from centered to reactive. Quiet winners refuse to let the outside world dictate their internal state before they've anchored themselves. This protected hour becomes a sanctuary, a time to think, reflect, breathe, and prepare mentally for the responsibilities ahead. During this protected hour, their habits are intentional and supportive. Gentle stretching or mindful movement to wake the body. Reading something uplifting or thought-provoking. Reviewing their priorities for the day. Journaling to deepen clarity. Visualizing the outcomes they want. These actions don't create chaos, they create control. They reduce stress, increase awareness, and set a confident emotional tone for the entire day. The ritual of early mental clarity is powerful because it transforms how the mind enters the world. Instead of being reactive, it becomes proactive. Instead of being fragmented, it becomes focused. Instead of being emotionally unstable, it becomes steady. Quiet winners do not rely on motivation or willpower to create a productive day. They engineer the psychological conditions that make clarity inevitable. This ritual also reinforces identity. When quiet winners treat their inner world with seriousness, they reinforce the belief that their mind matters, their time matters, and their direction matters. They begin each day from a place of intention rather than chaos. And over time, this morning clarity compounds, creating calmness, stronger decisions, sharper thinking, and a deeper sense of purpose. Quiet winners know that a day without mental clarity is a day spent reacting instead of progressing. That is why they begin each morning with stillness, silence, intentionality, and protection. Their mornings are not rushed. They're crafted. Not noisy, but powerful. Not chaotic, but precise. This is where their advantage begins, quietly, internally, and deliberately, long before the world notices their results. Chapter 2. The Ritual of Single-Task Dominance. Quiet winners separate themselves from the rest of the world with one uncommon skill: the ability to devote their full attention to one mission at a time. While most people bounce between tasks, notifications, conversations, and distractions, quiet winners commit to one focused effort and pursue it with depth. They don't chase productivity hacks or attempt to multitask their way to success. They operate with a simple philosophy: if you divide your focus, you divide your impact. Single-task dominance is their secret weapon, the ritual that elevates the quality, clarity, and effectiveness of everything they do. Their ritual begins with a shift in mindset, one mission at a time. Quiet winners don't scatter their energy across a dozen tasks. They choose the task that matters most and immerse themselves in it. This immersion creates a flow state, a psychological zone where concentration deepens, distractions fade, and the mind performs at its highest level. In this state, time moves differently. Ideas connect faster. Work becomes cleaner. Problems unfold more clearly. Single-tasking isn't about doing less. It's about doing what matters in its purest form. To protect this depth, quiet winners engineer their environment with intention. They remove visual noise, clutter, unnecessary items, open tabs, unfinished materials. Anything that steals attention by simply existing in sight. A clear physical environment supports a clear mental environment. Their desk holds only what is needed. Their browser contains only relevant tabs. Their workspace signals to the brain, focus begins here. Instead of overwhelming the senses, their environment grounds them, helping them enter deep concentration quickly and stay there longer. A distraction-free environment extends beyond the physical. Quiet winners eliminate digital distractions as well. Notifications are silenced. Social media is out of reach. Messages are not checked compulsively. They understand the destructive power of digital interruption. It takes only one ping, one buzz, one notification to shatter focus and create a mental reset cost that can take minutes or even hours to recover from. Quiet winners protect their mind from this constant fragmentation. They build a digital world that supports their intention rather than sabotaging it. A key element of their focus ritual is creating focus windows, dedicated blocks of time where interruptions are not allowed. During these windows, they are unreachable, unavailable, and fully immersed. They communicate boundaries clearly. No calls, no conversations, no demands. This is their war room, a place where they produce their best work. Whether the window lasts 30 minutes or 90 minutes, the rule is the same. This time belongs only to the mission. By enforcing these windows, quiet winners protect the integrity of their attention, ensuring it is used for creation, not distraction. Another habit that strengthens their single-task dominance is deliberate task sequencing. Quiet winners don't work randomly. They structure the order of tasks in a way that builds mental momentum. High cognitive tasks come first while the mind is fresh. Medium cognitive tasks follow. Low cognitive tasks, administrative work, repetitive tasks, maintenance tasks are left for later. This sequence reduces resistance and prevents burnout. Each completed task creates momentum, making the next task easier to begin. Task sequencing becomes the rhythm that guides their productivity, eliminating the emotional chaos that comes from constant task switching. Single task dominance also redefines how quiet winners measure work. They don't obsess over hours or busyness. They measure progress in quality, depth, and completion. A task completed at 100% clarity is worth far more than hours spent in scattered activity. Quiet winners ask, did I complete something meaningful? Was my work intentional? Did I bring full focus to this mission? Did the output reflect my best thinking? This mindset transforms their work from hurried activity into strategic execution. They aren't impressed by long hours. They are impressed by precise progress. Single task dominance is also an emotional discipline. Quiet winners resist the itch to switch tasks when boredom arises. They resist the urge to escape discomfort by seeking stimulation. They don't reward themselves with distraction simply because the work feels challenging. Instead, they lean into the difficulty. They know that discomfort is the doorway to depth. The moment most people flee to distractions, quiet winners stay, and it is in that staying that breakthroughs happen. Their focus becomes a mental training ground where resilience strengthens and mind-wandering loses power. Over time, this ritual reshapes their identity. Quiet winners become people who finish what they start. They become people who trust their attention rather than scatter it. They become people who build mastery because their focus is deep, not diluted. Their results accelerate because every task is done with intention, not fragmentation. Single task dominance is not a technique, it is a lifestyle. It is choosing depth over noise. It is rejecting the culture of busyness. It is training the mind to go further, think clearer, and work smarter. Quiet winners know that the world rewards those who can produce meaningful, high-quality results, not those who can multitask themselves into exhaustion. While others drown in distraction, quiet winners rise through focus. Their silence becomes their strength. Their discipline becomes their advantage. And their ability to devote themselves fully to one mission at a time becomes the force that propels them ahead in a noisy, scattered world. Chapter 3. The ritual of controlled input. Quiet winners rise above noise, not because they are smarter, but because they are selective. They understand a truth many people ignore. What enters the mind eventually shapes thoughts, behaviors, emotions, decisions, and identity. Input becomes output. Consumption becomes character. In a world overflowing with information, distractions, and emotional triggers, quiet winners gain their edge by filtering what they allow into their mental space. Controlled input is their silent discipline, the practice that protects their clarity, their focus, and their inner peace. The first rule they follow is simple: guard what enters the mind. Quiet winners are extremely aware of the mental cost of news cycles, gossip, negative conversations, toxic environments, and digital overload. Every piece of input carries emotional weight. Some uplift, some drain, some inspire, some distort. Quiet winners filter ruthlessly. They decide what is worth consuming instead of letting the world force-feed them noise. They understand that mental clarity is not only about what you do, it is about what you refuse. Instead of consuming information impulsively, quiet winners practice intentional consumption. They don't scroll without purpose. They don't click because something is trending. They don't watch whatever autoplay feeds them. Every piece of content they consume is chosen. They ask, will this add value to my thinking? Will this elevate my understanding? Will this protect my mental state? Will this support my long-term goals? If the answer is no, they move on. This intentionality prevents the mind from becoming a dumping ground for random, low-quality information. Quiet winners consume content that strengthens them, not content that scatters them. One of the most important parts of controlled input is limiting exposure to noise, drama, and emotional triggers. Quiet winners safeguard their mental world from negativity because they know emotional contamination is real. Toxic conversations, fear-based news, online arguments, and dramatic environments don't simply pass through the mind. They stay. They linger. They disrupt. They influence future thoughts. So quiet winners step back. They unfollow, mute, block, and distance. They leave conversations that drain peace. They avoid environments that elevate stress. This isn't avoidance. It's emotional discipline. It is choosing clarity over chaos. Another major part of their ritual is replacing passive scrolling with purposeful learning. Quiet winners don't waste hours consuming entertainment disguised as knowledge. They replace low-quality input with books, long-form learning, well-curated podcasts, meaningful conversations, and skill-developing materials. Purposeful learning strengthens neural pathways, deepens thinking, and builds long-term advantage. It creates a sharper, more capable, more informed mind. Passive scrolling, on the other hand, weakens focus, shortens attention span, and floods the brain with dopamine-driven distraction. Quiet winners know the difference, and they choose learning. Throughout this process, they treat attention as a currency, not a habit. Most people give their attention away freely, to apps, to strangers online, to pointless arguments, to meaningless noise. Quiet winners treat attention like wealth. They invest it carefully. They protect it strongly. They don't waste it on content that adds no value. They don't let external triggers hijack it. They don't let algorithms dictate what they see. Their attention is their power, and they guard it like a scarce resource. Because it is. Controlled input also strengthens emotional stability. When a mind is not constantly assaulted by negativity, comparison, drama, or digital overload, it becomes calmer. Anxiety decreases. Focus increases. Internal dialogue becomes clearer. Creativity expands. When input is controlled, the mind has room to breathe, to imagine, to strategize. Quiet winners use this mental space to think for themselves. They don't outsource their thoughts to trends, influencers, or media cycles. They cultivate an inner voice that is strong, wise, and independent. This ritual does not require isolation. it requires intention. Quiet winners are not disconnected from the world. They simply refuse to be consumed by it. They build an ecosystem of input that strengthens their identity instead of confusing it. They create a mental environment where clarity thrives and chaos has no foothold. Over time, this input discipline becomes one of their greatest advantages. They see what others don't. They hear what others ignore. They think clearly when others are overwhelmed. While the world is drowning in noise, quiet winners create mental silence that fuels deep thought, powerful action, and emotional resilience. Controlled input shapes their worldview, their mindset, and their performance. It allows them to operate with focus in a world designed to distract. And because they choose what enters their mind, they also choose the quality of what comes out, their ideas, their decisions, their actions, and ultimately their results. Quiet winners understand that success is not just built from effort. It is built from attention. And attention, when controlled, becomes an unstoppable force. Chapter 4. The Ritual of Strategic Planning. Quiet winners don't live their life reacting to whatever lands in front of them. They don't wake up each day and hope productivity happens by accident. Their progress is engineered, not improvised. And the engine behind that progress is their ritual of strategic planning, a disciplined process that transforms goals into systems, systems into actions, and actions into long-term results. While most people drift through their days, quiet winners operate with intentional structure. They understand that without a plan, even strong effort gets scattered. But with a clear strategy, even moderate effort creates powerful momentum. At the heart of this ritual lies a fundamental principle. Plan the week around priorities, not tasks. Quiet winners aren't obsessed with filling time. They're obsessed with directing it. A list of tasks can look productive, but tasks are often reactive, trivial, or disconnected from long-term impact. Priorities, on the other hand, are the anchors that matter. Quiet winners identify the areas of their life that deserve their attention. Health, craft, career, growth, relationships, creativity, and rest. Then they design their week so that these pillars receive consistent, protected time. They build their schedule around meaning, not busyness. This approach shifts their focus from random productivity to systems and pipelines. Quiet winners don't rely on motivation to get things done. They design systems that carry them forward even when motivation dips. A system is a repeatable structure, a process that ensures progress happens regardless of mood or circumstance. For example, instead of vaguely wanting to get better, they create learning systems. Instead of hoping to be productive, they build deep work pipelines. Instead of wanting better health, they create movement and nutrition structures. Systems remove emotional randomness and replace it with predictable progress. A key component of their strategic planning is creating non-negotiable blocks. These are time slots reserved exclusively for their most important work, the work that requires focus, creativity, and strategic thinking. Non-negotiable means exactly that: not moved, not delayed, not sacrificed. Quiet winners schedule these blocks during their cognitive peak hours, when their mind is sharpest. These blocks are protected by strong boundaries, similar to how they'd treat an important meeting. This ensures that high-quality work is completed consistently and not squeezed in between distractions. Large goals don't intimidate quiet winners because they use the power of micro-actions with deadlines. Instead of viewing goals as huge, distant mountains, they break them into tiny, actionable pieces. Each micro-action is small enough to complete without resistance, yet meaningful enough to create momentum. These actions are paired with deadlines, not to create pressure, but to create structure. When every goal is broken into measurable steps and placed on a timeline, clarity replaces overwhelm. Progress becomes incremental, steady, and emotionally manageable. Their planning ritual does not end with setting intentions. It continues through constant refinement. Quiet winners review their plans frequently and adjust with logic, not emotion. A weekly review helps them analyze what worked, what didn't, and why. They examine whether their systems held up under stress. They evaluate whether their priorities were honored or compromised. They observe where time was wasted or misplaced. Then they adjust. This adaptability keeps their strategy alive and dynamic. Instead of clinging to routines that no longer serve them, they reshape their plan to match their evolving needs. Emotional neutrality is essential to this process. Quiet winners don't judge themselves during planning reviews. They don't beat themselves up for a bad week or glorify a good one. They simply gather data. They treat their life like a long-term project and themselves like an engineer continuously improving the blueprint. This logical approach prevents emotional burnout and keeps their progress steady. They recognize that planning isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Another powerful effect of strategic planning is reduced decision fatigue. Because quiet winners already know what matters each day, they minimize the number of choices they must make. Their plan tells them where to focus. Their systems tell them how to operate. Their priorities tell them why it matters. With fewer decisions draining their mental energy, they think clearer, act faster, and maintain productivity throughout the day. Strategic planning also reinforces identity. When quiet winners design their days with intention, they strengthen the belief that they are in control of their life. They become the architect rather than the passenger. Planning becomes a form of self-respect, a way of telling themselves, my time matters, my goals matter, my life matters. Ultimately, strategic planning becomes the thread that connects daily action to long-term purpose. It transforms desire into structure, structure into habit, and habit into mastery. This ritual is why quiet winners rarely feel lost or overwhelmed. They always know their next step. They always understand where their effort is going. Their path remains clear even in chaotic environments because they crafted it themselves. Quiet winners succeed quietly not because they work harder, but because they work intentionally. And their intentionality begins with how they plan, prioritize, and structure their life long before they execute it. Chapter 5. The Ritual of Energy Management. Quiet winners understand something that most people never realize. Time is not the real limiting factor. Energy is. You can have 10 hours available, but if your mind is drained, your emotions are chaotic, or your body is fatigued, those 10 hours are useless. Productivity then becomes an illusion of effort, not a reflection of results. Quiet winners break free from this trap by mastering the ritual of energy management. They organize their day not around the clock, but around their cognitive strength, emotional steadiness, and physical capacity. This is how they achieve more with less struggle and maintain consistency while others burn out. The foundation of their ritual is recognizing their natural energy cycles. Every human has fluctuating periods of high, medium, and low energy throughout the day. Quiet winners observe these patterns in themselves. They notice when their mind feels sharpest, when creativity peaks, when problem-solving flows, and when fatigue begins to creep in. Instead of fighting these cycles, they work with them. High-energy periods are reserved for deep, complex, high-value tasks. Medium energy periods are used for routine work. Low-energy moments are intentionally used for rest, reflection, or simple chores. This alignment transforms productivity into flow rather than force. Because they structure their work around these cycles, quiet winners avoid one of the biggest traps of modern life, pushing through fatigue. They know that grinding past exhaustion destroys quality, increases mistakes, and drains emotional stability. To prevent this, they incorporate micro breaks into their day. These breaks are intentional and short, stretching, stepping outside, breathing deeply, hydrating, or simply allowing the eyes to rest from screens. Micro breaks reset the nervous system, restore mental clarity, and prevent cognitive burnout. While others push through until their mind collapses, quiet winners pause and then return stronger. Another cornerstone of their energy ritual is avoiding energy-depleting people and environments. Quiet winners know that not all exhaustion is physical. Much of it is emotional. Certain conversations, social dynamics, chaotic spaces, or negative atmospheres can drain energy faster than any task. Quiet winners learn to identify these emotional leaks. They limit exposure to people who constantly complain, criticize, or create drama. They avoid environments that stimulate stress or noise. They choose calm places to work, calm people to engage with, and calm routines to return to. This isn't isolation. It is intelligent self-preservation. Protecting energy means protecting performance. Their physical routine also plays a major role in sustaining energy. Quiet winners prioritize nutrition, hydration, and movement not because it's fashionable, but because it directly affects cognitive function. They eat foods that stabilize energy rather than spike it. They hydrate consistently because even mild dehydration reduces focus and mood. They engage in daily movement, not necessarily intense workouts, but consistent activity that keeps the body oxygenated and the mind alert. Movement is their natural antidepressant, anti-anxiety practice, and cognitive enhancer. It keeps emotions steady and thinking sharp. Emotional balance is equally important in their energy management ritual. Quiet winners understand that unmanaged emotion is the biggest invisible energy drain. Worry, overthinking, unresolved conflict, and suppressed feelings can silently drain vitality. To combat this, they prioritize habits that stabilize the inner world. Journaling, breathing exercises, reflection, meditation, silence, evening wind-down routines, and honest emotional processing. These practices neutralize stress before it becomes overwhelming. They prevent the emotional storms that derail performance. Another important part of their ritual is protecting mental bandwidth. Quiet winners avoid multitasking because they know it fragments attention and drains energy faster than focused work. They avoid constant context switching, which forces the brain to reorient repeatedly and waste cognitive fuel. Instead, they group similar tasks together, complete them in focused blocks, and transition gently. This approach preserves mental energy, enhances performance, and reduces stress. Their goal is not to do everything, but to do the right things with the right energy. Quiet winners also understand the importance of rest as a strategic tool, not a reward. They don't treat rest as something earned only after exhaustion. They treat it as a non-negotiable element of high performance. Rest is integrated into their lifestyle through early nights, tech-free evenings, intentional unplugging, and strategic pauses. They know that recovery is an investment in tomorrow's clarity, not an indulgence. Their discipline comes not from pushing nonstop, but from recharging deliberately. Over time, this energy-based approach shapes their entire life. Their work feels smoother because it aligns with biology. Their emotions feel more stable because stress is managed proactively. Their mind feels sharper because distractions and fatigue are minimized. Their body feels stronger because movement and nutrition are built into their identity. Quiet winners don't chase motivation. They create an internal environment where motivation naturally thrives. Energy management becomes their competitive advantage. While others struggle, burn out, or collapse under pressure, quiet winners sustain their performance with calmness and control. They don't rely on willpower alone. They rely on energetic intelligence. They don't burn out because they don't allow their energy to be hijacked by noise, fatigue, or chaos. In a world of high achievement, the people who win are not the ones who work the longest. They are the ones who manage their energy the best. Quiet winners understand this deeply. Their results are not loud, but their consistency is. And behind that consistency lies a simple but powerful truth. Energy, not time, determines success. Chapter 6. The ritual of tight boundaries. Quiet winners don't rise through talent alone. They rise because they protect their time, attention, and emotional energy with fierce intention. The world is full of distractions, demands, and invisible pressures that pull people away from their goals. Most people allow these forces to dictate their day, their mood, and eventually their life. Quiet winners do the opposite. They build tight boundaries around their time and mental space, creating a controlled internal environment where their focus, creativity, and discipline can thrive. Boundaries are not barriers for them. They're filters that protect what matters most. The first principle in their boundary ritual is learning to say no, not reluctantly, but confidently. Quiet winners understand that every yes carries a cost. A yes to unnecessary obligations is a no to meaningful progress. A yes to distractions is a no to focus. A yes to people-pleasing is a no to self-respect. Quiet winners don't say no to be difficult. They say no to stay aligned. They reject activities, conversations, and commitments that dilute their purpose or drain their energy. Their no is their shield, a simple word that protects them from noise disguised as opportunity. This boundary mindset extends to how they view time. Quiet winners treat time like a scarce and precious resource. They don't give it away casually. They don't allow others to waste it. They don't pack their schedule with obligations that serve other people's priorities more than their own. Time for them is an investment, not a gift. They guard their hours the way a wealthy person guards their assets, strategically, selectively, and without apology. They understand that how they allocate time shapes who they become. Another part of their ritual involves setting clear rules about availability and communication. Quiet winners refuse to be constantly accessible. They don't respond to messages instantly or allow notifications to hijack their focus. They communicate boundaries clearly. I'm not reachable during deep work hours. I respond to messages once or twice a day. Meetings require purpose, not habit. These rules protect their mental flow. They reduce interruptions, prevent reactive behavior, and preserve their cognitive bandwidth. Quiet winners know that every interruption, even a brief one, breaks mental momentum and weakens the quality of their work. Boundaries also apply to people. Quiet winners limit exposure to energy-depleting relationships. They distance themselves from those who constantly criticize, complain, or create emotional friction. They avoid social environments that drain rather than nourish. They choose relationships that add stability, not chaos. This isn't coldness, it's emotional intelligence. Quiet winners understand that human energy is contagious. Being around negativity lowers their internal frequency. Being around inspiration lifts it. So they choose wisely. Another key boundary is around obligations that do not support growth. Quiet winners don't overcommit. They don't say yes out of guilt, fear, or social pressure. They ask, does this move me closer to who I want to be? Does this support my purpose? Does this align with my priorities? If the answer is no, they decline without overthinking. They know that an overloaded schedule creates weakened performance, emotional fatigue, and long-term resentment. By limiting obligations, they maintain clarity and protect their mental strength. These boundaries aren't rigid walls. They are structures that allow quiet winners to operate in a calm, controlled mental state. With strong boundaries, they eliminate the feeling of being pulled in 10 different directions. They reduce anxiety by controlling their environment. They reduce stress by limiting needless obligations. They reduce overwhelm by eliminating noise. This mental calmness becomes a superpower, giving them the clarity and emotional stability to execute consistently. Boundaries also strengthen identity. When quiet winners enforce their limits, they reinforce the belief that they deserve peace, focus, and respect. This inner certainty shapes their self-confidence. It teaches them that they are not obligated to participate in every request or respond to every expectation. Boundaries become a statement of self-worth. They communicate silently. My time has value. My energy has purpose. My attention has meaning. Over time, these boundaries transform their life. They experience more focus, less stress, and deeper alignment. They gain more progress in less time. Their relationships become healthier. Their work becomes more meaningful. Their internal world becomes more stable. And they develop a grounded presence, calm, assured, and unshakable. Most people struggle with boundaries because they fear conflict or judgment. Quiet winners master boundaries because they fear something far greater, losing themselves to distractions, demands, and obligations that don't reflect the life they're trying to build. Boundaries are not about rejecting the world. They're about protecting the world inside you. Quiet winners understand this deeply, and that is why their boundaries aren't optional. They are essential. They allow quiet winners to navigate life with clarity, strength, and unwavering focus, no matter how loud or demanding the world becomes. Chapter 7. The Ritual of Deep Reflection. Quiet winners grow faster than others not because they avoid mistakes, but because they learn from them with relentless honesty. They don't move through life blindly repeating patterns. They pause, observe, analyze, and adjust. They treat each day as data, each emotion as information, and each mistake as a teacher. Deep reflection is their ritual, the quiet practice that turns experience into clarity and clarity into wisdom. The day does not end for quiet winners until they review it with presence. They look back not with judgment, but with curiosity. Their goal is not to shame themselves for what went wrong, but to understand why it happened and how they can refine their actions tomorrow. This daily reflection becomes their greatest tool for self-correction and personal evolution. One of the first things quiet winners examine is their behavior throughout the day. Did they act intentionally or impulsively? Did they honor their priorities or get swept away by distractions? Did they respond thoughtfully or react emotionally? They observe how they showed up, mentally, emotionally, and physically. This awareness helps them recognize patterns that repeat unconsciously. Where most people live reactively, quiet winners choose to understand themselves deeply so that each day becomes better designed than the last. A major part of this reflection involves identifying emotional triggers, the moments that cause stress, irritation, insecurity, or loss of focus. These triggers aren't ignored. They are documented. Quiet winners ask themselves, what threw me off today? Why did that situation affect me so much? What emotions surfaced? Anger, fear, frustration, doubt? What belief or past experience amplified that emotion? Emotional triggers are windows into deeper truths. By identifying them, quiet winners gain the ability to anticipate emotional turbulence and prepare for it. They learn what weakens their focus and what strengthens it. They learn how to regulate themselves before emotions escalate. This emotional awareness becomes a superpower in high-pressure environments. Quiet winners also reflect on where their effort was wasted. Not all work produces results. Some tasks drain energy without contributing to anything meaningful. Some conversations consume mental bandwidth without purpose. Some habits feel productive but lead nowhere. Quiet winners pinpoint these inefficiencies. They ask, where did I invest energy today that gave nothing back? Which tasks created friction but no progress? What can I eliminate, automate, or simplify? Without reflection, people waste years repeating the same draining patterns. With reflection, quiet winners correct course quickly. They refine their systems, tighten their schedule, and remove anything that does not serve their goals. Another powerful component of deep reflection is tracking personal patterns. Quiet winners observe how they think, act, feel, and respond across days and weeks. They begin noticing rhythms, times of peak creativity, times of emotional vulnerability. habits that trigger stress, actions that generate momentum, thoughts that strengthen confidence. By tracking patterns, they gain self-knowledge that others never develop. They no longer guess what works for them. They know. They understand their mind like a system, their emotions like a map, and their behaviors like a blueprint. This insight allows them to design their life with precision rather than trial and error. Deep reflection also helps quiet winners understand the gap between intention and execution. They examine the promises they made to themselves and whether they kept them. If not, why? Was the plan unrealistic? Was the environment distracting? Was the emotion overwhelming? Reflection gives them the clarity to revise, restructure, and recommit. Rather than feeling guilty for inconsistency, they treat it as feedback that the system needs adjustment. This mindset prevents self-sabotage and builds self-trust. Reflection also sharpens clarity about values and direction. Quiet winners often ask, did I live today in alignment with the person I want to become? Did I act from my values or from pressure? Did today move me closer to my long-term vision? These questions ground them. They prevent drift. They ensure that daily actions match the identity and future they are building. Without reflection, life becomes reactive. With reflection, life becomes intentional. Most importantly, reflection transforms experiences into wisdom. Many people go through experiences but never grow from them. Quiet winners do the opposite. They extract meaning from every moment. Reflection teaches them which decisions create peace, which choices create chaos, which habits create growth, and which behaviors limit them. With each day of reflection, they become more self-aware, more emotionally stable, and more mentally sharp. Deep reflection becomes a ritual of self-evolution. It builds humility, the willingness to admit mistakes. It builds intelligence, the ability to analyze behavior. It builds discipline, the commitment to improve. And it builds confidence, the knowledge that they are continually upgrading themselves. Quiet winners are not perfect, but they are consistently improving because they refuse to repeat the same day twice. Reflection is their quiet, powerful ritual that turns ordinary days into transformative progress. It is the mirror that reveals truth and the compass that corrects course. Through reflection, quiet winners build a life shaped by awareness, not accident, by intention, not habit. Chapter 8. The Ritual of Consistent Skill Sharpening. Quiet winners have a defining trait that separates them from the average performer. They're committed to sharpening their skills every single day, regardless of mood, circumstance, or convenience. They do not wait for inspiration to strike, nor do they hope to wake up magically better at what they do. They build their future through deliberate, consistent refinement of their abilities. This is not a hobby. It is a ritual woven into their identity. Skill sharpening becomes the quiet force that fuels their long-term dominance. The ritual begins with a simple understanding. Skills decay when ignored and compound when practiced. Quiet winners refuse to let their abilities stagnate. Instead of assuming talent will carry them, they work on strengthening the foundations, their technique, their thinking, their execution, and their creativity. They treat their craft with respect, knowing that continuous improvement is the only way to stay sharp in a world where competition grows daily. Every day, they dedicate time, sometimes minutes, sometimes hours, to improving their most essential abilities. Quiet winners don't rely on randomness. They identify the skills that directly impact their mission and commit to refining them continuously. Whether it's writing, speaking, problem-solving, leadership, strategy, coding, creativity, or physical training, they approach their craft with meticulous focus. Their improvements are small but consistent, and those small increments compound into mastery. Unlike most people who practice in scattered bursts, quiet winners work through structured learning cycles. These cycles involve studying, practicing, analyzing, adjusting, and applying. They don't just repeat the same actions mindlessly. They practice with intention. They break skills into components. They study experts. They learn theory and apply it practically. They document what works and what doesn't. When they find weaknesses, they isolate them and turn them into strengths. Their growth is not accidental. It is engineered through structured repetition. This structure prevents plateauing, the silent enemy of long-term skill development. Most people improve until they hit a challenge, feel discomfort, and then stop. Quiet winners do the opposite. They expect discomfort, embrace it, and use it as evidence of progress. They know that growth often feels awkward, frustrating, or slow. These feelings don't deter them. They motivate them. Discomfort, to them, is a sign that the brain is rewiring, that old limitations are dissolving, and that new abilities are being formed. They see struggle as a natural part of mastery, not a sign of failure. Quiet winners don't chase shortcuts. They seek knowledge that compounds over years, not days. They prefer depth over trendiness, fundamentals over hacks, long-term understanding over quick wins. They know that real expertise doesn't come from watching a few tutorials. It comes from sustained effort. They invest in books, mentorship, high-quality resources, courses, and deep learning experiences. They choose materials that stand the test of time. Their knowledge becomes layered and expansive, giving them an intellectual advantage that continues to grow. This long-term perspective reinforces their belief that mastery is a lifetime pursuit, not a temporary goal. Quiet winners see skills as living things that must be nurtured. They never feel done or good enough. Even when they reach a high level of competence, they maintain a beginner's mindset, curious, humble, open, and hungry for more. They refine, reevaluate, and rebuild. Their ego does not blind them to improvement. Their desire for excellence keeps them dedicated. Another important part of this ritual is self-feedback. Quiet winners frequently assess their own performance. They review their work, analyze mistakes, and ask, "What can I do better?" They welcome constructive criticism and use feedback as fuel for improvement rather than as an attack on their identity. This humility accelerates their growth, allowing them to surpass those who resist criticism. They also practice application. Learning is incomplete without execution. Quiet winners take new skills and immediately integrate them into real-world tasks. They use challenges as training grounds, turning every project, assignment, or task into an opportunity to sharpen their capabilities. They don't learn simply to accumulate knowledge. They learn to elevate performance. Consistent skill sharpening also builds identity-based confidence. Quiet winners don't feel confident because people praise them. They feel confident because they know the hours they've invested, the discipline they've built, and the knowledge they've earned. Their self-belief isn't fragile. It's forged through sweat, repetition, and continuous evolution. They trust themselves because they've proven themselves. Over time, this ritual becomes one of their greatest advantages. While others stop growing after the initial success, quiet winners keep rising. While others underestimate the value of fundamentals, quiet winners strengthen them daily. While others get distracted by noise, quiet winners deepen their expertise quietly and steadily. Their mastery becomes unmistakable, not because they start loudly, but because they persist quietly. Quiet winners understand that skill is the real currency of success. The world rewards those who can perform at a high level consistently. And that level is achieved not through luck or bursts of motivation, but through the daily, disciplined ritual of sharpening the abilities that matter most. Chapter 9. The Ritual of Intentional Solitude. Quiet winners have a relationship with solitude that most people misunderstand. They don't fear being alone. They seek it. They don't experience solitude as emptiness. They experience it as restoration. For them, solitude is not an escape from life, but a return to themselves. It is where they reconnect with their identity, clarify their purpose, and strengthen their internal stability. In a world overflowing with noise, opinions, and distractions, intentional solitude becomes one of their most powerful rituals. The foundation of this ritual is understanding that solitude is not isolation. It is not withdrawal from responsibility, relationships, or the world. Instead, it is the intentional act of stepping away long enough to hear one's own thoughts without interruption. Quiet winners know that constant noise, digital, emotional, social, blurs clarity. When the mind is always responding, reacting, or absorbing, it loses the ability to think independently. Solitude is the antidote. It restores the mind's original signal by removing interference. In this solitude, quiet winners reconnect with their identity. They check in with themselves. They ask who they are becoming and whether their current actions reflect that person. In solitude, they remember their values, their strengths, their dreams, and their true motivations. Identity becomes clearer when external expectations fade away. Solitude becomes the space where they refine the person they're shaping themselves into, far from comparison, judgment, and outside influence. Quiet winners use solitude to think deeply without noise or pressure. When they sit alone, ideas unfold naturally. Problems become solvable. Patterns become visible. Intuition strengthens. They question, explore, and imagine with freedom. Without the urgency of conversation or distraction, the mind is free to stretch. This depth of thought is rare in a world addicted to instant stimulation. But quiet winners train their mind to go beyond surface-level thinking. They use solitude as intellectual training, a gym for the mind where clarity, creativity, and insight are strengthened consistently. One of the strongest effects of solitude is the development of independent thought. Most people live under the influence of the world, absorbing fears from the media, adopting opinions from others, copying goals, or following trends without noticing. Quiet winners detach from these external layers. In solitude, they filter out what is truly theirs from what they've unconsciously inherited. They challenge their own assumptions and examine beliefs to see which ones are outdated or limiting. This independence of thought becomes a rare superpower in a society that constantly tries to tell you who to be. Solitude also helps quiet winners make decisions aligned with their long-term vision, not their momentary emotions. They step out of noise long enough to see situations clearly. Many decisions made in the chaos of daily life simply reflect stress, pressure, or fatigue. Solitude slows everything down. It allows emotions to settle, logic to re-emerge, and perspective to widen. In this calm state, decisions are no longer reactive, they're strategic. Quiet winners use solitude as a compass, ensuring their choices reflect the life they want to build, not the distractions pulling them away. Another powerful element of this ritual is emotional grounding. Solitude allows quiet winners to process emotions without external influence. They sit with their thoughts without judging themselves. They let feelings rise and settle naturally. Solitude becomes a therapist, a meditation, a reset button. It gives them the emotional clarity needed to stay steady under pressure. When you can face yourself in silence, you become unshakable in noise. Solitude also enhances creativity. When the brain is not overloaded with input, it begins generating new ideas. Quiet winners often get their best insights when they are alone, walking, sitting in nature, journaling, or simply being still. Creativity needs space to breathe, and solitude provides that space consistently. In these moments, connections form, breakthroughs happen, and new directions reveal themselves organically. More importantly, solitude strengthens self-trust. When quiet winners spend time with themselves, listening to their thoughts, observing their reactions, and making decisions independently. They build inner confidence. They stop doubting their intuition. They stop seeking approval. They stop needing reassurance. Solitude becomes a mirror that reflects their inner strength back at them. Over time, they trust their judgment more deeply, making them strong leaders of their own life. Intentional solitude becomes a strategic advantage. While others fear being alone because they are uncomfortable with their thoughts, quiet winners embrace solitude because it refines their thinking. While others drown in external noise, quiet winners use silence to gain clarity. While others are pulled in every direction, quiet winners reconnect with their direction. Solitude is not for escape. It is for alignment. Quiet winners emerge from solitude more grounded, more focused, and more certain. They face the world with a calm mind and a clear heart because they've already met themselves before meeting the day. This inner clarity makes them resilient to chaos, immune to pressure, and resistant to noise. Most people avoid solitude because it feels uncomfortable. Quiet winners seek it because it is transformative. Solitude gives them perspective. Solitude gives them direction. Solitude gives them strength. And in that quiet space, free from noise, comparison, and influence, quiet winners shape the identity that ultimately determines their results. Chapter 10. The Ritual of Invisible Discipline. Quiet winners possess a level of discipline that is almost invisible to the outside world. It doesn't show up in loud declarations, motivational speeches, or public displays of effort. It shows up in the quiet hours, the unnoticed choices, the private commitments, the moments when no one is tracking their actions. Invisible discipline is the foundation of their success. It is the backbone of their identity, the unseen force behind their consistency, and the silent engine that keeps them moving steadily toward their goals even when enthusiasm fades. This ritual begins with a mindset shift. Their actions align with who they want to become, not how they feel in the moment. Most people wait to feel motivated before taking action. Quiet winners know that feelings are inconsistent and unreliable. Motivation comes and goes. Energy rises and falls. Emotions fluctuate without warning. If success depends on mood, consistency becomes impossible. So quiet winners override feelings with identity. They ask themselves, what does the person I want to become do right now? And then they act, even if the action is uncomfortable or boring. Over time, this repetition solidifies a powerful belief. I can trust myself to do what matters, regardless of how I feel. This self-trust becomes their greatest form of confidence. Quiet winners follow routines that may feel repetitive, mundane, or even boring to others. But to them, these routines are powerful. There is power in consistency, power in structure, power in repetition. While others chase novelty, quiet winners perfect fundamentals. While others seek excitement, quiet winners seek mastery. Their routines include small but significant habits: waking early, reading, planning, journaling, skill practice, deep work sessions, exercise, reflection, and energy resets. These habits are not glamorous, but they are transformative. Each repetition strengthens their discipline and shapes their identity one layer at a time. This invisible discipline expresses itself in the smallest decisions, choices that no one else sees but that accumulate into massive impact. Choosing to go to bed on time instead of scrolling. Choosing to start the task instead of avoiding it. Choosing to stretch, breathe, or journal when the mind feels chaotic. Choosing to practice when no one expects it. Choosing to learn something new instead of wasting time on noise. These seemingly insignificant choices become the silent bricks that build extraordinary results. Quiet winners also understand the power of maintaining consistency even when progress is not visible. Most people quit because they don't see immediate results. Quiet winners persist because they trust the process. They know that success often grows underground long before it becomes visible above the surface. They show up day after day with quiet resilience, making microscopic improvements that compound into mastery over months and years. Their progress doesn't need applause, it needs repetition. Another element of invisible discipline is emotional self-regulation. Quiet winners don't allow emotions to dictate their behavior. They don't lash out during stress, collapse during doubt, or retreat during discomfort. They pause, breathe, reflect, and respond intentionally. This emotional discipline prevents impulsive decisions, protects focus, and preserves inner stability. While others react, quiet winners respond. This difference seems small, but over time, it creates an enormous advantage. Invisible discipline also shows in how they treat their personal standards. Quiet winners don't lower their expectations just because no one is watching. They don't cut corners. They don't cheat their routines. They don't allow laziness disguised as self-care to sabotage their long-term growth. Their standards are internal, driven by identity rather than external accountability. They live by the rule. I do the right thing even when it's inconvenient, unnoticed, or unrewarded. This inner standard becomes the compass that guides their behavior in every situation. Over time, invisible discipline evolves into an identity. Quiet winners no longer have to force discipline. They're disciplined. Their habits become natural. Their routines become automatic. Their alignment becomes effortless. This identity-based discipline is powerful because it doesn't rely on motivation. It relies on who they believe themselves to be. When discipline becomes identity, inconsistency becomes unnatural. The mind resists actions that contradict the self-image of a disciplined person. Invisible discipline is the foundation of their calmness. Because they consistently show up for themselves, they feel grounded, steady, and confident. Their self-trust eliminates anxiety. Their routines eliminate chaos. Their consistency eliminates doubt. They don't fear falling behind because they know they are growing every day, even if nobody sees it. This ritual is what separates quiet winners from loud strugglers. Loud strugglers talk about their plans, their goals, and their ambitions. Quiet winners live their plans, execute their goals, and embody their ambitions in silence. Their discipline is not performance. It is authenticity. It is not for show. It is for impact. The world may not see the hours they put in, but they do. The world may not witness their sacrifices, but they feel them. The world may not know how many temptations they resist, how many boring repetitions they complete, or how many nights they choose discipline over indulgence. But their results reveal everything. Quiet winners rise not because of noise, but because of consistency. Not because of luck, but because of identity. Not because of motivation, but because of invisible discipline. And this quiet, unseen discipline becomes the force that makes their results undeniable. Quiet winners are not made in public. They're built in private, in the hours no one sees, in the choices no one applauds, in the rituals that create focus, clarity, calmness, and consistent execution. Noise is easy. Flashy motivation is easy. But real results, come from quiet, disciplined rituals. You now understand the habits that shape high performers. Controlling input, sharpening skills, protecting time, optimizing energy, and building deep internal focus. When you adopt these rituals, you stop chasing success and start attracting it. Less noise, more clarity, more progress, more results. Quiet winners don't shout. Quiet winners don't prove. Quiet winners don't beg for recognition. They just win, again and again and again. Now it's your turn to join them.